Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast, a podcast all about growing your network and building your brand through traditional and digital networking techniques. I'm Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven and CEO of Marshall Communications. I've been strengthening brands through PR for over 35 years, and now I'm celebrating the success of executives, influencers, business owners, and entrepreneurs from all around the world, all of whom have cultivated their brands and broadened their networks through traditional and digital networking methods. Each week, I interview one of these interesting and influential individuals and provide an opportunity for you, the PR Maven Nation, to gain insights from their strategies and stories. So stay tuned for this week's episode, and thanks for listening. Hello, PR Maven Nation. Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast. Episode number 210, presented by Marshall Communications, creator of the Marshall Plan 65-Step Strategic Process. For those of you who are new to the show, I'm Nancy Marshall, your host, the PR Maven, and CEO of Marshall Communications. Welcome. And I want to welcome our guest, Bob Shultz, who's President and Chief Financial Officer of Puritan Medical Products. Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast,
Thanks, Nancy.
Bob.
Very happy to be here.
And this is your first podcast.
This is the first time, yeah. It's first time for everything, so very exciting.
I'm glad you're excited about it. I'm excited to have you. So, Bob is a 1990 graduate from Bowdoin College.
Don't hold that against me, please.
I'm already teasing because I'm a Colby grad and a Colby mom, and he's a Bowdoin dad.
Yep, I am very proud, and my wife's a Bowdoin grad as well. My brother's a Bowdoin grad. His wife is a Bowdoin grad. Bowdoin's strong in our family.
Oh wow, yeah. Polar bears.
Polar bears abound. Yep. Go you bears.
So he has a major in economics and a minor in government. And he started his career with Deloitte, where he earned his CPA. And after public accounting, Bob worked in a variety of leadership positions in both financial and operational capacities. Those roles allowed him to excel as a business leader, given the diversity of experiences. Bob has worked in organizations ranging from startup to global Fortune 100 and across diverse industries. Prior to joining Puritan, he was the division CFO of one of the largest global operating units of 3M Company. Big company.
Yeah.
At Puritan, Bob is currently the president and chief financial officer of this great Maine company. In this role, he is responsible for the day-to-day operations as well as the future strategic direction. This role allows Bob to utilize the totality of his strengths and experiences to partner with the fantastic leadership team and drive profitable growth across all of Puritan's markets. And I should say, in full disclosure, that Puritan is one of Marshall Communications' clients, and we're very proud and pleased to work with the company.
And we like working with you as well.
Thank you, Bob. So tell us about how you got in your career in the first place, and when did you come to Puritan?
Sure. Well, So as you mentioned, I graduated from Bowdoin in 1990, and coming out of one of the top, I like to think the top liberal arts school, if not in Maine, the entire country. There's you have so many different opportunities to pursue. I mean, grad school, business, sales. I mean, there's all different types of things, and I was blessed to have two very hardworking parents. My dad was a fifth and sixth grade teacher for 35 years. My mom was a secretary in the main office of our local high school. And so, I didn't have a lot of, let's just say, exposure to day-to-day business acumen, business activities growing up. I mean, that's just the way it was. And so throughout college, I did internships in business and whatnot. And when I graduated from Bowdoin, economics is a very theoretical degree, not a lot of practicality to that, but a good baseline to use in anything you do. And so going to work with a firm like Deloitte, which allowed me from the very ground up to learn the nuts and bolts of how financial statements are pulled together, how systems and people kind of work together, controls, all those things that are kind of paramount to a successful organization. I was able to see how different companies in different industries all work. And so it was a great opportunity for me. I was working full time. Well, at the same time, Deloitte had this liberal arts program that they paid for us to go take accounting classes at Northeastern University in Boston so we could sit for and pass the CPA exam. So it was just a great first job for me.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And if you understand the numbers, I mean, that's pretty essential to business.
Well, it is. And the nice thing about working at Deloitte, too, is it's one thing to understand the numbers, but you have to understand where the numbers are coming from, right?
Right.
I'm a big believer that in order to understand what you're doing or how to do it, you have to understand the whys. And the numbers and how they get there are a big part of that. And so that allowed me then to take that learning. And my wife and I, we lived in Boston for the first few years, and then we wanted to try something new. I mean, change is something I think we've embraced throughout our lives. And we moved to Denver. Deloitte accommodated a transfer, and then I left and started my career in industry with a company called Boston Chicken, which interestingly enough was a client of Deloitte's in Boston, but they were headquartered in Colorado. So from there, then kind of built my career on accounting and finance. Took a deviation into sales where I did some actually recruiting. I was a executive search leader for a while, got back into accounting and finance, and then eventually made my way to Minnesota, made my way to 3M, and then eventually to Puritan, and where I joined in April of this last year.
Okay. So
no, April of this year. Sorry.
April 2022.
4 or 5 months seems like a lifetime right now. But yeah, April of 2022. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's great. Yeah. Well, it's nice that you came back to the state of Maine too.
It's funny. We've been coming to Maine for years. Obviously Bowdoin grads, but growing up, my parents owned land up in Pittsfield, Maine, where we used to summer, which is, right in the backyard of where Puritan is. But then went to school at Bowdoin, but then Bowdoin has a high percentage of people from Maine, and so we've had for Bowdoin friends that have lived here since we've graduated, and we've made our way back. And there's something about coming across the bridge from New Hampshire and seeing that big blue sign of "Welcome home," welcome, Maine the way life should be, and it has always resonated with us, and that's it's always been a driving force of us wanting to get back someday.
Well, my agency handles the public relations for the State of Maine Office of Tourism.
Well, you did a nice job on that sign then, because it got us back.
Thank you. So how do you feel about Puritan's amazing role during the pandemic? You should talk about what the role was.
Yeah, so, I mean, what's fascinating is, so I wasn't with Puritan during the pandemic. I like I said, I joined in April of this year. But Puritan was one of two, as I understand it, as I've gotten here, it was at the time one of two global suppliers of the nasal swabs we all became very familiar with when we were doing the testing for COVID. And I guess that would have been in the spring of 2020, when the government was looking at how do they increase the testing capacity of this country. They looked around and realized, here in the United States, there's only one company that can supply the government and the country and, anyone else in the world with the swabs necessary. And that was a small little company up in Guilford, Maine, called Puritan Medical Products. And as I understand it, President Trump's team got in touch with Timothy Template and Scott Wellman, who at the time, Timothy is our EVP of sales and one of the trustees, and Scott Wellman was the president and general manager at the time, and got in touch with them. And from there, the government invested in building out capacity, and the company went from one facility in Guilford, Maine to two more in Pittsfield, and then another one that we opened end of last year down in just north of Nashville, Tennessee. And so, basically, quadrupled, actually tripled in size in terms of manufacturing, and tripled in revenue, and went from, primarily before COVID, big revenue was kind of non-seasonal, non-COVID related. We had products in medical testing, and forensic diagnostics, in environmental and industrial, and some and media. To big piece of it now is obviously the COVID and the seasonal testing, and to be able to do what Puritan did in terms of building, operationalizing, training all the people, and producing all the product, it's nothing short of amazing. I mean, it really is. It's a testament to the people of the great company and what they were able to do.
Well, I was involved at that time, and I think it's remarkable because Scott Wellman will say that I think he was in line for getting ice cream with his family, and got a phone call from Senator Angus King.
That's right.
Saying, "Are you guys ready to ramp up your production of swab?"
And the short answer is like, no, right? I mean, the company did not have the asset base in place to increase the volumes that were being requested, and the team, including Timothy Scott, Derek McKinney. I mean, the engineering and operations team. I mean, it was just fantastic what they were able to do, and they had to go find property. Work at Chinbro. I can't go without saying Chinbro is a fantastic partner through all of this in terms of getting the prioritizing our construction, our assets, and our need to build this capacity. And between Chinbro and Puritan and everything in
Bath
the government
Ironworks
and Bath Ironworks, that's right, because Bath Ironworks was very important with making the machines, and it was a state of Maine effort, and it's something that this state should be very, very proud of.
Well, something I think is remarkable is I knew King Cummings, who was one of the owners of Guilford Industries, which is another business based in Guilford, Maine, that made Army blankets during World War II, again, under the Defense Production Act during World War II. And I just think it's amazing that two companies from little tiny Guilford, Maine, were mandated during essentially wartime to make their product.
I wasn't aware of that, and it really is. I mean, the Defense Protection Act was obviously the legal driver for what needed to happen and what the government did. But now again, the government, people, all of us, we didn't know what we were. I mean, this was something brand new to everybody, right?
Right.
And even today, there's still learnings in terms of COVID, I think, was just one of those. It's obviously a pandemic, and I think it's just one of those things that the world has got to learn to live with and deal with. And for us, our products are fortunately in demand, and the great thing for the Abbotts of the world, the Roches of the world, the ones that we're all buying our testing from, is for in the U.S. it's a product that's U.S. made, right? And so the government invested in us. We now make products that's U.S. made. I mean, it's an American success story. Ultimately, is what this is.
Yes, it is.
And it's one that's centered again here in Maine. Yes, we have this great new facility down in Tennessee, and it really is a phenomenal new innovation. I mean, it's just tremendous. But we're never going to forget. This is Maine is who we are. Maine is where we're from, and it's the work ethic and the people and everything else that is centered to Maine.
Well, I know that there is this thing called the can-do spirit of Mainers, which is, and I think it's all rooted in like hunting and fishing and being sportsmen. And like, if your snowmobile breaks down in Millinocket somewhere in the wilderness,
you got to figure out
how to fix it. So I think that the can-do spirit is the reason that Puritan was able to ramp up so quickly.
I can't argue that, right? I mean, it's the one thing I love about about being here in Maine, being part of this company, is exactly that. I mean, people have a can-do attitude. Very rarely do I run into somebody that says, well, we can't do it because more often than not, it's like, okay, well, this is what we're going to have to do. Right. And to me, it's a paradigm shift in terms of how you think. And is it glass half full, glass half empty? Is it, but to me though, that's the cornerstone of how you innovate and how you grow. You have to be able to think, what's next? How do I get to the next step? Continuous improvement, those types of things. Because it's very easy to just kind of get stuck in your way and be happy in your current station. But, in today's day and world, and in a global economy like we're in, and particularly, I mean, we've seen since COVID, there have been, new entrants into the marketplace that are competing with us. And that forces us to be able to think about what's next and how do we get better at what we do. And that is paramount, I think, and it is great in Maine because, to your point, that's how we think.
That's right. Figure out how to make it work.
We have to. Absolutely.
It's like a broken down snowmobile.
gonna have to use that. I'm gonna have to use that.
So what is your hope for the future of Puritan?
My hope in the future of Puritan is that we're known for more than just being COVID, swabs for COVID. And I look at us and I see our business as kind of more life sciences, because we're broader in what we in the products that we supply in the markets that we go to. And I believe that when you look at Puritan, I mean, certainly it was a student body left in COVID, right? I mean, the all of the priorities and all the resources were to get the plants built, to get the plants operational, meeting quality and regulatory standards, pumping out all the swabs that the world needs, and that benefited us and the country and the world quite well. But prior to COVID, there was a nice business of non-COVID related business, right? That kind of had to be put on the back burner, and we had some very trusted and devoted customers that they understood that. I mean, everyone, I think they were the ones that were, I guess, potentially negatively impacted by the DPA, because they knew what we had to do and what we were tasked to do in terms of the COVID swabs. But now they want to do more business with us, and we have that capacity to do it. And so, for me, one of the things that we need to do is, yes, COVID seasonal business is going to be core to who we are. I mean, that's what has been the priority in the last couple of years, and will continue to be a priority. But to me, I think we have to get back to kind of the base of where we were prior to COVID, and remember those customers in those industries, because we have some great products and some solutions that we can provide in those various markets.
Yeah, and I'd really like to give a shout out to Timothy Template, because he is the one. I mean, the company has been in his family for generations, but he has a curious mind, and he's a good listener too. And he's the one who went out to these trade shows all over the world, again, and talked and listened and heard what the needs were. And then he went back to Guilford and to the factory and said, what if we do this? And so I feel like he is a very humble Mainer. Of course, he would never take the credit, but I feel like he really adapted a lot of the products based on what he heard the needs were.
Timothy is he's a very customer first businessman. He's done a lot of different things in his life, has had a lot of different experiences. But certainly Puritan would not be where it is today without his vision, without his drive, his dedication, and his focus. And he's someone who he's a great resource for me. I mean, like I said, I've been now in the company since April, so you're talking five months I've been here. Started as CFO and then was promoted to president and CFO, and like I said, and Timothy has been a wonderful confidant or sounding board and mentor for me as I've tried to get up to speed as quickly as I can. And the Puritan, it's family owned. It's the Templates and the Cartwrights, and I'm blessed to be able to have strong relationships with both sides, both the Cartwrights and the Templates. And but Timothy is part of the business, as he's not only an owner, but he's also executive vice president of sales. And so I tend to work more with Timothy. And like you mentioned, he's been part of this, the nuts and bolts, the guts of this business for over 35 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, this is a podcast about public relations and PR and publicity. Yep. So Puritan has garnered a great deal of publicity and press coverage throughout the pandemic. How do you feel like this has benefited the Puritan brand?
You're asking a guy that's been here 5 months, but suffice to say, what's really interesting is when I decided to join the company in April, I had been with 3M for 16, 17 years. And so deep relationships there. And, I have a profound respect and appreciation for everything that I was able to accomplish at 3M. It's a great company. So, I had some very difficult conversations when it came time to leave. And it was really interesting. I was talking to the business leader of the unit of which I was CFO, and my unit was primarily in automotive and aerospace OEM. So not even remotely touching with the markets that Puritan plays. Now 3M is a customer of Puritan's, but not in the area that I was in. But anyhow, I was talking to the business leader, and I told him, and again, small town, small, relatively in the whole big scheme of things, Puritan is still a lot smaller than a company like 3M, right? But when I told him where I was going, he said, "Oh, I know them. Aren't they the ones that saved the company and saved the country and started manufacturing all those swabs with the government when the government invested in them?" And that took me back, right? Because I was thinking I was going to have to sell some of these 3Mers on leaving 3M and going to this company.
Right.
And yet here it is, a guy that doesn't even have anything to do with this market and this industry, very smart guy. And he knew about Puritan. And so right there, I was like, hey, this has some street cred. And then when I got to Maine and I started talking to people and explaining who I was and where I was coming from, and again, down here in the Portland area where, you're 2 hours south of Guilford. And, hi, I'm Bob Shultz. I just moved here and I'm working at Puritan. Oh yeah, we know Puritan. They're the great big company up in Guilford that is making all the swabs for COVID. Well, welcome to me. So, that to me says a lot, right? Because typically the person on the other end of a swab is a patient or someone taking a test, like you and me when we were doing the COVID. But yet here it is that people knew who Puritan was, and it wasn't a it didn't seem like it was a surprise. It was like, oh yeah, I know Puritan. And so it was I think that had a lot to do the COVID and how the company stepped up in a time of need for really the world. It resonated with people, and I think people took it and now know it, and there's a sense of pride that, Puritan is a great Maine company, and I think we and I know I'm proud to be part of it.
Yeah, I'm proud to be part of it too.
I don't know if that answers your question or not about the brand, but the brand, the company's been around for 100 years, right? I mean, it was started in wood as a wood company. Toothpicks and popsicle sticks and corn dog sticks, and then eventually tongue depressors and then the applicator sticks for swabs, and that's how the company started. And then we still have the side of the business that still sells all the popsicle sticks and everything, but the medical business then, and you mentioned Timothy and his vision and everything else, started accelerating in growth, and that became the dominant piece of it in terms of the swabs and the media and those things. And that was the basis for which then the demand for COVID came in. And our brand, it says Puritan quality since 1919.
Right.
That says a lot.
It does. That
says a lot.
I mean, having a company that long, they're doing something right.
There are, and when you think about it, when you think of Maine, right? I mean, in terms of long-standing family-run businesses, Puritan, Hancock Lumber, Gifford Ice Cream. I mean, right? I mean, it kind of speaks to the
LL Bean.
LL Bean. Thank you. Yeah. How can I forget that? I mean, I don't have it here. I was wearing an LL Bean coat this morning. So it to me, that's kind of it's almost part of the main fabric, no pun intended, with LL Bean in terms of that's who we are, and right. there's something
a trust factor.
That. There absolutely is. Yeah,
and
well said.
I do believe that customers have to know, like, and trust you to want to do business with you, and I think people do trust the brand.
They do, and again, I think that a lot of that trust we were able to step up in a very short period of time to meet not only demand, but do it with a high level of quality, to meet the regulatory standards, which are pretty, stringent in this market. And, and our customers love our product, because their customers love using our product. And so, I mean, the brand is strong, and it's only going to get stronger.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm sure with your leadership.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. I'm blessed to be here.
Well, we're going to take a short break and hear more from Bob, but now it's time to remind you about how you can access my latest book, Grow Your Audience, Grow Your Brand, and you might be getting a copy, Bob.
Oh,
but you can visit prmaven.com/giveaway and download a free copy today. And we'll be back with more from Bob Shultz in just a moment.
After reading PR Works, I really started to think about how marketing actually works. And I know that sounds a little bit ridiculous, but what I realize is what each platform nowadays that we use out there in digital media and social media has its own nuance and also quirks to it. And understanding how they're used is exceedingly important. Because when you have a hammer in your hand, everything looks like a nail. And you can't approach it that way in marketing. And that's where I think Nancy's brilliance really shined in PR works. I think grow your audience, grow your brand is really sort of the manifesto of understanding that there's many different levels to marketing. It's on your personal side of your brand, how actually you express yourself through business, but also what people hear you saying and what they see out there in the public eye as well. So I think what's really important there, that's really the blueprint of how you go about using these new social media platforms, but also to express who you are as a human being. Because people want to see you authentically and genuinely working with not only what you do, but also with the customers. And Nancy, on a personal level, I think that's who she is. She embodies that approach.
Welcome back to the PR Maven Podcast, and we're talking with Bob Shultz today, and we're live streaming on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Realized that was sort of a surprise.
That was a surprise to me.
So, Bob, Puritan is looking for employees.
Yes, we are.
What kind of positions are available, and where are these jobs located?
Well, first of all, we're not alone, right? I mean, there was an interesting article in this last Sunday's paper where the state economists have estimated that 20,000 jobs have left the main economy since COVID, which for our state, that's a lot of jobs. Of those 20, over 2/3 are retirement and early retirement. So basically jobs that aren't coming, people that aren't coming back into the workforce. So it's a challenge. And so, we've addressed, we're trying to address our needs through various ways where, in terms of wages and benefits, which we think we have some of the best in class. But it is a challenge, and so we have openings across basically all the functions. All of our manufacturing sites have operators and some technicians, and I think we have a couple engineering positions open. We have a regulatory position open. In my house, we have a couple of finance positions open. So I mean, it's across the entire organization that we're looking for jobs and looking for people to fill these jobs. And it's a competitive market out there, and we are looking to, as I stated, I want to build a world-class organization. We have world-class people, and we want to add to that with additional world-class people, and we're slowly doing that.
And these jobs will be located in Pittsfield, Maine?
Actually, we have jobs in Guilford. We have jobs in Pittsfield. We have even jobs down in our Nashville, Tennessee facility.
And in Falmouth, Maine?
And in Falmouth, Maine, in our office in Falmouth, Maine. So really, when I say we have across the entire spectrum of where we work and operate, it's all of it. And you can go to our website, www.puredomedproducts.com, and you can find all the open positions listed there. But we go to other sites, Live and Work in Maine. We post the jobs out there, Indeed.com. So I mean, the jobs are posted out there for people, and we would look forward to hearing from anyone that might be interested.
Well, if someone's listening, especially if they love the great outdoors, I mean, there's no place more beautiful than Pittsfield or Guilford. It's like it
is gorgeous
gateway to the Maine Highlands with all.
Well, just last week, it's funny. My controller, who actually was also a 3M'er and came to work here. She and I went out to dinner, and we went. It's 30 minutes from Guilford up to Moosehead Lake and the shores of Moosehead Lake, and we went up there and had dinner out on a deck overlooking the lake. And it's like, it doesn't get any better than
that's
this.
right.
It really doesn't. It's a phenomenal place, and and it's beautiful, and you have to take advantage of those opportunities when you can.
My parents used to, they had a boat that they would put in Moosehead and go camping on islands in Moosehead Lake. And I know there's beautiful campsites.
Oh yeah, it's gorgeous. It really is. And, we mentioned before we went on air that, I drove down from Guilford today, and it was, there's the fall chill is in the air, the breeze is blowing, and the leaves are starting to turn. It's fall is coming, and fall for me, it's my favorite time of year. And it's, I can't wait to be up in Guilford and Pittsfield in the middle of autumn and just be part of that. I can't wait.
Yeah, there's a lot of leaf peepers that will be up there too.
There absolutely are, and which means that I'm going to be sitting in more traffic coming between Guilford and Newport as I try to make my way down the turnpike.
Now let's talk about the sales and marketing team again as an extension of public relations marketing. So how does the sales and marketing team at Puritan impact the business, and how many people are working in sales and marketing?
So I don't know the exact number, but we have a very strong investment in sales and marketing. Sales is led by Timothy Template. We've talked about Timothy, and he has both reps and sales leaders here in Maine as well as throughout the country. Right. I mean, we have a broad geographic coverage of the country and as well as the world. We have team members in Asia and Canada. I mean, we are really a global supplier of these products. And then on the marketing side, Ginny Template and her team are second to none. They are great at positioning Puritan, its brand. I think we're getting better at the social media, and Ginny and her team are fabulous at doing that. We are outdoing these trade shows, and I was at the largest one in Chicago about a month and a half ago, and our booth and what they put together was I'm biased, but I really thought it was the top booth that I saw at this show. I mean, it really demonstrated who we are as a company, the products that we have, and it was just nonstop people coming through and getting to know us, and that's a testament to that team.
Yeah, it's very impressive, and they do trade shows all over the world too. So logistically, that's a challenge. Just the travel and
it is, and Ginny and team do a great job. Ginny, Bree, Paula, Lisa. I mean, they all are. It's a phenomenal team, and they really, they're able to. What's the word I'm looking for? They're able to communicate. Marketing, having a great product is one thing, but how do you, and this is, I know I'm stepping into your world here, but how do you get the word out? How do you get that product to resonate with customers and their customers, and to have people, know, Puritan being at the tip of their tongue and having that visibility, and Ginny and her team and Timothy and his team through all the customers, it's phenomenal. I mean, again, we're a small company based in Maine, and yet we have a global presence, and that is just that speaks volumes. It really does, the work that they do and how they can get that and get the message to resonate across so many different markets, industries, companies, whatever label you want to throw at it. It really is an incredible job that they do.
Well, I was at the Maine International Trade Center Awards ceremony where Puritan was recognized as the Maine Company of the Year by the International Trade Center. So that was a real point of pride.
It should be. I mean, that was earlier this year. It was in May. Yes. I think that was happened right after I joined, and that that's a source of pride, right? I mean, again. We have taken a product that started with the trees of Maine, right? And over the years, and now we're manufacturing and again, products that are going all over the world, and basically they're made here because the Tennessee facility just opened. Right. You're talking about products that are made in Maine, right? And being shipped all over the world to help bring this awful pandemic to its knees. Right. That's essentially what we're trying to do.
Yeah. It's admirable.
I like to think so.
So is there an app, a book, or a podcast that has helped you in your career and why?
I'm a big believer and always have been. I've been an athlete. I'm not anymore. You can tell just by looking at me. But I played team sports my whole life. I played college soccer at Bowdoin, and all my kids have played. And so I'm a big believer in team and everyone recognizing their role in strengthening a team. And the way you do that, to me, is you play to the player's strengths. And I go through that because I believe Strength Finders is a great book, and it was a tool that I've used often in my career because it helps people on the team understand what everybody's strengths are, because that's what you're accentuating. You're accentuating who they are and what they do and how, and the strengths they have play. And it doesn't mean that you're weak in somewhere else. It just means that this is where I am best. And if you can use that and have a team leverage everybody, you become that much stronger. And so I've done that. I've done that with several teams that I've led in the past. And it's always been interesting because there's always one or two surprises to people.
Right.
And it kind of unlocks a confidence and an ability in people too. And I love Strength Finder. So that's one book that I always kind of go back to. And then, and you and I have a mutual friend in Kevin Hancock, and his book, Not for Sale. And I've read that a couple times in terms of how he found his voice as a leader, even when he was going through his own personal issues. And I find that to be very inspiring. And I picked it up again when I became president, because I think there's, again, some lessons in there that I can learn from how he adapted and how he was able to then adapt and then transform Hancock Lumber into the company it is today. So
yes,
and
we had Kevin on the podcast. We'll link to that episode in the show notes, but he was just here with me a few weeks ago.
Great guy. One of my favorite men in all the world.
Yeah. And also another Bowdoin graduate.
Yeah. His brother went to Colby though.
Oh yeah. So he's not all bad.
He's not all that bad.
But getting back to your point about the Strengths Finder, I agree absolutely, because at one point in my career, I was working at Sugarloaf, the ski area,
yep.
And during the off season, it was kind of slow, so I wasn't really doing PR. So they had me work in the mailroom, like sorting the mail, and that was not the best place for me with my personality. Like the high point of my day every day was when the UPS man came. But other than that, I was like sorting by zip codes, like It was just. And if they had put me in charge of like selling real estate, or anything that had to do with like interacting with people,
yep.
I would have been so much happier. But I would be down there in that mailroom day after day, and it
sucks the life out of you, right?
Yeah. And when you find what you love to do, it actually gives you energy. Like this podcast fills me with energy. I'm so excited about it. And, I'm so grateful that we have social media so that we can like create a podcast and put it out there. So that's one of the things that's
so you have connectedness or connector in your as one of your strengths.
On steroids. Yeah.
There you go.
I was born to connect. And I always believe, that if you can figure out, I'm grateful that I figured out early in life that was my strength, and that led to me having this business that I've had for 32 years now. So I definitely believe in the Strengths Finder process.
Yeah, I love it. It's and again, I think it's one of those things where it's good about an individual. I mean, as you mentioned, but I think for a team,
right? I
mean, the Strength Finders is meant to be an individual kind of assessment, but to be able to then leverage that in terms of a team understanding. And it was really interesting. I've done this, like I mentioned, 3 or 4 times, and in each case, there is, I didn't realize, and because everyone kind of gets stuck, it's I don't know if it's a defense mechanism or even in today's world where, communication, face-to-face communicate. I mean, it seems to be more and more of a challenge, right? And and I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's just that's the reality of the way things are right now, and particularly with remote working relationships and everything going on that's happened the last couple of years. But to be able to have people that understand, because to pull them out of their own personal silo or where they're working, and then be able to kind of put their focus on someone else and understand who that person is and what makes them click, I think is a very it's a good way to strengthen the bonds between the team members. Right.
Totally. Yeah. It requires empathy too.
It does require some empathy, and even those that don't have that as a I don't think empathy is one of the 23 strengths. It could be, but I don't think it is. But even if someone doesn't have a high EQ, then that's up to the rest of the team that may have that EQ to recognize that, okay, that person may not have it, but and that person has strengths in other areas. So how do you leverage those strengths? And so I think it's, whether you have EQ or not, it's a way for a team to better understand each other and hopefully then the leader, and if you're really being a leader, then it's the whole team can figure out how to take steps forward and achieve greatness.
Right. Which Puritan has done.
We have.
So congratulations. So how can people get in touch with you, Bob?
Well, I do have a LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, I think we're going to show it.
There you go. I also have a Twitter handle, but I got to admit, I'm not very active on Twitter. And you and I have talked that perhaps I need to do a better job of that, and I recognize that. So I have that, and in my email at Puritan as well. So I recognize in this role that I am representing Puritan and all the great people of Puritan, and I'm very proud and honored to do so.
Well, thanks for joining us. And your email at Puritan is rlshultz, which is SHULTZ at puritanmedproducts.com.
Correct.
Yes, great. Well, Bob, this has been really interesting. I am so glad we had this conversation. I think we could go on forever, but we probably shouldn't. No. At least not today.
I appreciate that.
But I'm glad that you were able to join me today, and I look forward to continuing our conversation.
Thank you, Nancy. I really had a great time.
Yeah, me too. So if you have any questions for our guests, would like to hear more about a certain topic, you can email me at nancy@prmaven.com. And thanks for joining us, PR Maven Nation. Have a great day. Thanks for listening to this episode of the PR Maven Podcast. I invite you to share a review of the podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. You can also join the PR Maven Nation on Facebook. It's free to join, and it's a great community of like-minded individuals who are all looking to learn and grow from one another. If you use an Alexa device, use your Alexa app to search the skills and games section to find and enable the PR Maven Podcast Flash Briefing. This will give you access to exclusive content and more PR and marketing advice. Thanks again for listening, and have a great rest of your week, PR Maven Nation.